Yo YouTube, it's Storm bringing you a anti-Doom deck. Now I wanted to bring you guys this deck because obviously it's day one. People are playing Doom 2099 ever since he's been released today, and it's been annoying. This card is very good. People have been playing decks where they ramp him out. People have been playing decks where they don't even need to ramp him out. They play Sandman on turn 5 after playing Doom 2099 and then Dr. Doom, and then all of a sudden all these cards have 20 something power. Well, the locations have 20 power, and it's just like, okay, how do I deal with that? Well, I'm actually bringing you a couple decks that will, and a couple counters, as you can see on this infographic on screen. But let's start with Doom 2099. So he is a 4-costed card, 2 power. He after each turn, add a Doom bot 2099 to a random location if you played exactly 1 card. Then the Doom bot will be an ongoing 4/2. Your other Doom bots and Doom have +1 power. So the first thing I thought of when countering a card like this is Clog, right? You want to be picking cards that can either reduce the board space or just annoy your opponent from actually even getting their combos off, right? So a good example of that, if you look over to this notable counter section, we have Red Guardian. Now, Red Guardian, you typically want to play him on curve, right? But if you save him for key cards like Doom 2099, you can completely just turn off the Doom 2099 ability, which stops any other Doom from coming out, which is pretty strong. The other counters here are Super-Skrull. Now, Super-Skrull is interesting, right? Because for every Doom bot that is out, he gains that ongoing ability. I believe he becomes a Doom 2099 card, and he will also now gain the subsequent ongoing buffs from each Doom card. So Super-Skrull can go from like a 4/2 to like insane numbers depending on how many Doom cards they have out, right? Well, Doom bots. The Doom bot and Doom 2099 are 4-costed cards. US Agent already makes these cards a 4-2. Insane for a 2-drop. So you'll see later in the deck that I'm going to show, but I put Mystique in there because having 2 US Agents is kind of insane. But going on to the next notable counter is Hobgoblin. Now, the reason why I have the Goblins here is just for Clog, like I mentioned earlier, but these negative powers, these -3s, -8s are huge when you kind of pair them with cards like Hazmat, or you pair them with Red Guardian. That turns the Hobgoblin from a -8 to a -10. The power swing that you get from playing these cards, denying the enemy from letting these Dooms spread out, is actually pretty insane. And going in with Clog is also Debrii. Now, Debrii is kind of more of a cope pick. She's decently strong. She's strong in Patriot decks, so I can see Patriot decks kind of rising up against Doom, especially since they can fight Doom bots on like having spread out power throughout a deck with like Ultron and just the usual shenanigans with like Mystique and Patriot. But you could also run Annihilus package, where you hazmat the Debrii and then you send over the rocks, right? So that's another way to clog up their board. And let's just get into the counter deck section. So I mentioned Clog. Doom 2099 game plan is to fill the board up with strong single card plays and powerful ongoing 4/2 Doom bots. You can shut down all of these plays with Clog cards like the Goblins, Debrii, and Annihilus. So as it says there, you really just want to clog them up, reduce that board space, deny them any chance to even allow these Dooms to spread, right? And then the second kind of decks that I think go really well with Doom 2099 are high scalers. So when I say high scalers, I mean decks like Surtur, Tribunal, Bounce variations, Shuri variations, Null, Arm and Destroy. These decks all go super over the top, right? And even if Doom 2099 happens to get their combos off, these cards go so high, it almost doesn't really even matter. And that's kind of the downside of this deck, is while it goes pretty far when it comes to like spreading the power out, it doesn't spread it out enough like how a really strong tribunal deck would, you know, or these decks like Serta that can, you know, reach 30 plus power in 2 lanes, you know, or high 20s. So that's how I would generally suggest that you go with countering Doom 2099. And here's a few decks that you can go to counter him. I actually have a couple examples here. So here's the first deck that you can go to really counter Doom. This deck is actually pretty interesting because if you look at it, it's specifically designed to handle just Doom, right? I feel like this deck wouldn't really fare too well against kind of other higher meta tier decks. I haven't really tested that out, you know, but I have played this deck a few times on ladder. I'm high infinite, and I'm not gonna lie, like I've gone against a couple of Wiccan decks and you can clutch it out, right? But the thing is because this is so tailored towards Doom, you might struggle, you know, against certain archetypes. But let's just go through the deck real quick. Here we go with a couple examples of Clog. We have Hood, right? Hood just gives us a 1/6 demon, but he's a -3 on board, but that's fine because we run Annihilus that can send it over or destroy it. And we also run Viper in this deck. Viper turns that 1 -3 combo into a 3/4 that will send it over, you know. Hazmat is here because if you happen to be in a situation where the Doom bots are already out on the field, they're swarming, they're all over the place, that means your opponent is more than likely going to have more cards than you. And Hazmat will then just net you a more positive interaction when it comes to power, right? As opposed to you getting hit by it yourself. This deck does not run Luke Cage. I kind of thought about putting him in, but I felt like, well, there's not going to be many times where you actually do Hazmat. So I don't think it's too much of a problem, especially since there's so much negative power and you have permanent negative power like the goblins that you happen to throw over. So I don't think it's too much of a problem that we don't run Luke Cage. But this is the card that actually kind of holds it all together. This is the glue. Ravonna is very strong in this deck. She discounts Goblin, she discounts Mystique, she discounts Hobgoblin, right? Being able to put a Hobgoblin out on turn 4 is insane. Being able to have a 2/0 Mystique and have that copy US Agent is insane. That turns a 4 power play, right? A 4 costed energy play, right? With Mystique and US Agent. And now these Doom bots are losing 8 power each for each card. So it's actually a lot of power here that you're swinging when you're copying US Agent here. There might be some niche situations where you can use Mystique to also copy Super-Skrull, depending on the deck that you might go against. You could be going against Iron Man. You could be dealing with someone who has an Ajax, right? You know, there's so many different kind of decks that use ongoings as well. So that's why Mystique is also on the deck. Goblin is self-explanatory. You're just trying to clog. Debrii is the same thing I mentioned earlier in the video about just clogging, and then you can send over your negative rocks that you've hazmated with Annihilus. And then Super-Skrull is here just to copy the Doom bots as kind of a Hail Mary last kind of ditch effort. Sentry. Now Sentry is your just typical 4-costed card with decent amount of power. He used to be a 4/10. He was better at a 4/10, and he can probably go back to a 4/10, honestly. But hey, that's for a different day, that conversation. But he's here to basically create this -8 void that you can also send over with Annihilus. It's also just a decently powered card because this deck does not have a lot of just base positive power. You're getting your power by afflicting. You're getting your power by junking them. And if you're going against a destroyed deck or a deck that can send these cards back over, you might struggle. So this is why Sentry is kind of very important in this deck. He just provides that 8-point power that you really need to swing a location. Hobgoblin is same as Green Goblin, self-explanatory, just there to clog up. And Annihilus is there to be your closer. A lot of the times you just want to do a Annihilus into a demon because as your final play. Yeah, that's the deck. This is the deck that I've been running to counter them all day. I have multiple wins against many different Doom decks because of this. I've gone against Sandman decks. I've gone against people trying to double up the Dooms in case they didn't get enough like Doom bots out, and US Agent is just swinging these locations by -12 power. It's crazy. And here's just an example of me winning a game. As you can see on screen, this was just a typical 2-cuber, but they even had Luke Cage in this deck, and I still won because the Demon, US Agent, just having decent stats anyway for a 2. And I gave up right, but I definitely won middle because I was able to clog them up with Hood, with Green Goblin. So you can definitely win certain matchups, even if it's not in your favor or even if they have Luke Cage, by just kind of playing it very smart. So yeah, let's go on to the second deck. It is a high Evo Junk deck. So this is a deck that I've also played a bit today. This one is focused more on, I would say, just it's focusing on affliction because we have the high Evo package, right? So we have Cyclops will afflict -2 power every turn. Abomination is going to benefit from everyone having so much negative power because of Hazmat, because of Cyclops, because of US Agent. I would say the difference between this deck and the other deck is it's not so much focused on clogging. There's still some clog aspects. I took out Hobgoblin to put in Green Goblin because it's kind of, you already have 2 5-costed cards, and there's gonna be times where you don't want a Hobgoblin over. You just want the cost reduction that Abomination will give you by having all these negative cards on the field. And Hulk. Now Hulk is really here because you need a huge swing when playing this affliction type decks, and I personally do not have Ajax. Ajax would be the perfect change here instead of having Hulk because of that huge swing, because of, you know, the Hazmat, the US Agent, and the Cyclops. Super-Skrull is also in this deck just for the same reason as earlier, so that you can copy Doom bots or other just favorable ongoing effects. And yeah, that's the deck. I didn't expect to really run high Evo, but I found that it actually really worked. And we have the Viper too. We have the Viper in the Hood kind of combo here too. So there's a lot of kind of play lines that you have in this deck. It's barely a high Evo deck, I will admit, because you only have Abomination, Hulk, and Cyclops. But that's about 1/4 of the deck. But hey, it's a high Evo package with junk elements. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my decks. I was thinking about what would really go against 2099. He's very strong. He is. He's predictable but strong. So I don't think he's going to be a card that will net you a lot of cubes, but he will have a pretty decent win rate because there's going to be a lot of retreats. Once Doom gets going, he's going to get going. And if you cannot stop it, you cannot stop it. So just another one of those decks. Thank you guys for sticking around for the video. I do appreciate you guys watching it the whole way through. Please give me some comments, likes, and subscribe. I stream on Twitch Mondays through Thursdays from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. So I hope to see you there. Peace out.